going on, people? Hope you're all well. Welcome back to the show. I had a bit of a nightmare yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if I had too much sun or what, but oh my God, was I rough. Wow. Migraine issues. Migraine issues is all I'll say. I don't know if you boys have ever suffered with those, but oh my God, it's just kill me now. Get a pistol and kill me now.
You know what? I've never had a migraine, bro. I've never had a migraine, no. I've had headaches and that, but like, not a migraine.
The worst. Bro, it's get to a point yesterday where I literally looked at a screen or a phone and I wanted to be sick. There was that much and I couldn't see. You know when you get a text message, you can't read it because there's like I don't know if you've ever read it, Tom. You get like blodges and you can't see words. I had that and I was like, why can I not see this? And I was just like chundering. Anyway, it's not good, man. I'm better now, which is good. And it's a bit cooler today where I am, so hopefully it's all good. My guests need no introduction. To be honest, you all know them. Tom Canton, big up yourself. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Better than you, apparently. Not bad, man. Just got a lot of golfing today and on a day off, and I'm popping off to Scandinavia tomorrow. So, happy days.
Mate, you're always away. I must be doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Literally, you're like in America, then you're going to Copenhagen.
And I'm just... the only two places I've been, to be fair, this year.
Yeah, that's true. quite close between each other. Yeah. There we go. I'm just in sunny Essex, mate. I need to get out of it. But anyway, LB, what are you telling me?
Just life, bro. You know what I mean? Just cruising. I got a lot of cruise control, man. It's the best place to be. You know what I mean? On cruise control, not having to change lanes. Just one direction, bro, and just cruising. You know what I mean, nice speed. It's a nice speed.
Nice steady pace. Pace. Let's start with you, man, because last time we spoke, you were like, I can see this Kovacic deal happening. It'll be a good deal, but I don't see Declan Rice. I'm not too sure. I think it's going to be Arsenal. And then I see Big Steve the other day saying that if Pep wants him, we'll get him. So where's your head at now, man? Because obviously you've seen bids go in from both Arsenal and Manchester City. They've been rejected. It looks like West Ham are talking 100 million mark. All this breakdown in installments is starting to get a little bit yawn and boring, if I'm honest. So let's break down the bids first of all, because there's a lot of confusion around Manchester City and Arsenal fans losing their heads about this. And not so much Manchester City, to be fair, more Arsenal. But the first bid, we believe, was around the £75 million mark. 80 million, and then add-ons. And then it went down from Arsenal's perspective to less upfront, but more over installments from what we hear. Now, Manchester City have put in a bid which is similar to that, but apparently the rumour is they're going to be paying it over a shorter period of time, which is why it's more respectable from West Ham's, as far as West Ham are concerned. However, they have rejected it. So what is actually going on in your eyes here, LB?
Well, first of all, let me explain where I was last time, because you are right to say last time I didn't think City would get him. I thought it was going to go to Arsenal, and that's because I didn't think City's interest was serious. And it's proven that over the last 24, 48 hours that City's interest is actually serious. And therefore, I think that, look, if City want him, and I think City will put an offer in that gets accepted, it'll probably happen. Having said that, there are still a lot of rumours going around that he doesn't want to move out of London, you know what I mean? And maybe he's already given his word to Arteta or whatever, however much you think that is a thing nowadays. When someone gives them the word, they can always go back on it. So it's in this weird situation, because the last thing that I understand, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, the last thing that I'm aware of now is that City's bid was just rejected. We're now waiting on hearing whether City are going to go back in or whether Arsenal are going to go back in before City go back in. I'm thinking Arsenal apparently made three bids already on this guy. I'm right in saying? Two bids. I'm thinking this, how realistically, how much more do Arsenal have to be able to give to this player in terms of an offer? Because you can't just keep on going up and up and up and up. This isn't an eBay listing where you just keep on going up and up. You know what I mean? You have a couple of cracks at the whip, and then boom, you say, we can't get this deal over the line. So if Arsenal put the next bid in and that gets rejected, I think Arsenal will probably end up walking away. Just based on the fact that they have to stop at some point, right? Otherwise, they're just taking the piss. And then if Arsenal's next bid does get rejected, City are then in a very interesting position, because then City can go, okay, well, like Arsenal are out of the race. Our last offer, we can maybe say that is the offer. We're not going to go up. But now I'm hearing rumours that apparently there's a third club, maybe United, maybe are interested in him. So I don't really know, mate. It's a bit weird. I think West Ham are in this weird position where they can just sit there rejecting all the cash and just waiting for a bid to come in that they find acceptable. However, at some point, the switch will flick, go the other way, and they will want to sell because they don't want this dragging into pre-season. So yeah, just a bit of a weird position where no one really knows what's going on. No one knows what Declan Rice actually wants. Is it 100 million that West Ham want? Okay, well, City are very close to that. And what are Arsenal going to do? They probably get one more chance at a bid, and then after that, they're probably going to pull out. But it's a bizarre one, man. It really is.
Yeah, Tom, it is bizarre, and I don't know where we go from here. Both clubs are kind of waiting to decide which one wants to go in first, because Manchester City are in a position where they don't just want to go, yeah, we can afford 120, let's just give him 120. And then West Ham go, we would have probably accepted 105, but okay, yeah, definitely, here you go. At the same time, Arsenal, they don't know what Arsenal can afford. So the Man City tried to wait for Arsenal to go in next and go, how much can they, like LB's just said, how much are they actually going to keep going here? Because they're creeping as best they can towards the 100 million, trying their best to avoid the 100 million mark, it seems to me. So let's be real. If City want this player, they can get him tomorrow. Like, let's be real. They ain't sitting there like they've got 115 charges. Why do they care if they get 116 if they have to? Let's just go and put it another 120 in. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they want 120, how much do you want, Pep? Do you really want him? Yeah, just go pay 120. Look what happens. Nothing. You get a slap on the wrist and do it again. If that's really going to put them over. Arsenal's situation, for whatever reason, we don't want to be going down that route. We're trying to get him for as cheap as we can. So the journalist in you, Tom, what do you know, and what can you tell us that you believe is happening at the moment, mate?
Well, you're right in the sense about City on the whole. If they want a player, they'll go get him. People have compared this to Grealish, but Grealish had a release clause, so it was a very different scenario. Yeah. Also, Arsenal and City actually work in similar ways regarding how they value players, in the sense that Arsenal and City don't like paying over the odds on their own valuation of an individual. Hence why Chelsea ended up getting Cucurella, because Chelsea were willing to bid way more than what Man City values Cucurella at. Could say a similar thing happened with Jorginho, when he was at Napoli as well.
Harry Kane as well, to be fair.
Yeah, Alexis Sanchez, as well. Man United were willing to pay a lot, were willing to offer in terms of a monetary value to Alexis. But the previous summer, before that January switch, City made a very big offer to Arsenal at the end of that summer window that Arsenal turned down. So City have the capacity, sure, to pay technically whatever they want. But at the same time, Arsenal are, in a similar way, have a valuation of Rice, and that valuation, I personally believe, ahead of from kind of all the noises that we've heard from some source side of things, is that there was a feeling that 70 to 80 million pounds was the valuation of Rice prior to the end of the season, and also in regards to what West Ham were looking at doing in the Conference League and all of this. And this figure of around 70 to 80 million pounds was a genuine thing that existed. And then what has happened is West Ham have just gone, well, you know what? If Man City's interest is real, and as LB said, I think a lot of us underestimated Man City's interest in the player, and that Arsenal were very much the leading candidate in this, that when that bid came in at 90 million pounds initially from Arsenal, which is a record for the club, by the way, it's not something to be sniffed at from an Arsenal perspective, way over what they've ever spent on a player, that's been rejected. Because, as LB said, you can just keep rejecting bids if you're West Ham at this point. You just keep rejecting it because they're under no pressure to sell until they start getting into pre-season. And for those that wanted, from both an Arsenal and Man City perspective, to just say, why haven't they just bid 100 million? Because if you went in at 100 million, we'd be talking about West Ham saying that 120 million is the valuation. You got to get to 120 million. But because we went at a 90 million first, you start bringing down the range of what the acceptable figure is much sooner. So it's it's a fluid situation continually. It's a very boring situation at the moment. It's really kind of long, and when you do a show on it every single day, it starts to take its toll, on a mental state. But I'm hopeful that Arsenal are successful, because it would be a really big statement signing for the club. And frankly, if they don't get Rice done, it is somewhat disastrous for Arsenal.
It is disastrous, mate.
Which, can I just come back at you there, Tom? Something that you said there about the fee, about going in with the 100 million. And I agree with what you're saying in that sense. But City's interest really, it seems, only came in for Declan Rice over the last 4 days, 5 days. We didn't really hear too much about that. Before that, it was all Arsenal. If City do end up signing Declan Rice, which at this moment in time, still might not happen, Arsenal still might get this across the line. So it's only hypothetical, but that's what we do on these type of shows, right? Do you think that we have to look at Arsenal's board and say, you kind of dropped a ball, man, because for that week period that you were sort of negotiating with West Ham, it seems to us all out here that it was just you and West Ham. And if you went and you kind of fucked around with the fees or whatever, asking over 4 to 5 years, apparently some of the add-ons were possibly unrealistic if you believe them.
Yeah, they were.
I just look at, and I remember sort of speaking to you, Dan, the first show that we ever did, and you didn't fully agree with me, right? But the one thing that I said to you on that first show that we ever did together is I worry a little bit about Arsenal this summer, because I don't know whether or not they're going to show the minerals to go out there and get business done. And getting business done sometimes means paying over the odds for players. But you do it. Why? Because you just got to get it done so then you can focus on your season. And I just look at it and I think you're right, Tom. I think if Arsenal don't get this deal over the line, I do think it's a bit of a disaster. Not to say that it can't be rectified with other players in the market, but you look at it and you go, hang on a minute, this is the first player that they've properly gone for this summer, the big player. And they've missed out because they looked like they were dilly-dallying around for a week. So expand on what you were saying there about the disaster, because I agree.
I disagree slightly with the last point about the first big player. Kai Havertz as a profile is a revival project for Mikel Arteta. It's still a £65 million investment for the club, which is a lot of money. It's the second highest amount of money Arsenal have ever paid for a player.
That's not the same type of player, though, is it, though, Tom? That's not the player that's going to come in.
In terms of the gravitas of the signing, you're right, in that sense. Yuri and Timber also expected to sign at around £40 million. So Arsenal have gone quite hard and fast at the start of this window. It's only been open 2 weeks. They've already got one player through the door at 65 million. Yuri and Timber's coming in at around £40 million, which I think is going really under the radar as a signing, by the way. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah, I like him.
And the Declan Rice side of things, the disaster side of things for me, is just because this is the window for Arsenal to, after a season of challenging Man City for a title and elevating themselves to that level again. And if they want to establish themselves, there aren't too many players in that position out there, really. You've got Declan Rice and Caicedo. They're the two names in the market right now. The other one was Jude Bellingham, and obviously he's gone to Real Madrid. And frankly, I don't think Declan Rice is a £100 million. I don't think he's worth that. I don't think that's close to what he's worth. To be honest, I think he's a £60 to £70 million player right now. But who am I to say what a player's worth in this crackpot market that we're in right now? To be honest, it's almost impossible. People will say that Arsenal should have been quicker. And should have done more. And as you said, when it was really just Arsenal and West Ham talking, my understanding is that West Ham had no interest in ever accepting a bid early in the window, no matter the figure, even at £100 million is what I've been told. They were always going to wait because the interest of Man City, whilst it was formalised in the last week, existed, and that they were aware and certainly made aware that Man City would eventually come in for Declan Rice. And so if Arsenal had, say, gone in, let's say on June 15th with a £100 million bid for Declan Rice, as far as I'm aware, that would have been rejected because West Ham's strategy this entire time was to wait and to reject and to wait for Man City or another club. And as you said, there's potentially a third club involved, whether that's United, we're not sure. And there was also interest in Bayern Munich at the beginning of the window as well, until they were kind of made aware that, Arsenal got to a stage on a personal side with the player that it made it obvious he was staying within England at least at a minimum. So they backed out. So
Man United are offering 40 million on Harry Maguire, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
that's a sham.
well,
that's a shambles.
that
Actually was apparently that was the rumor. It was going to be Maguire and McTominay plus 40 million. I mean, wow, Jesus.
But LB, that's my understanding, is they were never ever going to accept anything early in the window, and that it was always going to be rejected.
Do you think though, Tom, like it is embarrassing if we don't get this over the line? It's yet again another plan A target that we ain't been able to get. And a lot of people like don't quite understand what I mean by that, because Mudryk has probably worked out. I mean, I'm sure he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, right? But Trossard was a good signing for us in the end, and we got him instead. But the point was, we actually went for Mudryk. We didn't go for Trossard until, we can't get Mudryk, we'll get Trossard. Same with Caicedo. We ended up with Jorginho. If we go in again with Rice, and we also don't get Caicedo, this for me looks like, where is our transfer? Our transfer plan looks a little bit all over the place. So my kind of question, I suppose, is if we end up without getting Rice and Caicedo, two players that every Arsenal fan, it's on the lips of every Arsenal fan, we're going to try and get Rice and Caicedo. Where does the problem lie? Is it Stan Kroenke and Joshua Kroenke for not giving the money and saying, look, you want Rice, he's apparently going to be 100 million. I know you're trying to scrimp and save, but here, just take another 50 and go and get him, or whatever it be. Or do you look at the board and just think your negotiations are shockingly bad? Or who does it lie with? I put this on Twitter the other day, and everyone kind of took the wrong end of the stick, as they always do, and said, the season's not even over. Window's not even over. It's not my point. My point is, when we come to the end of that window, who is actually going to be looking at here? Who is in charge of our transfers? I did a show on it. Nobody actually really does get that. Is it all of them? Is it Arteta as well? Is it the board? Is everyone on the same wavelength? Or is there like, look, I'm the manager. I want these players, go sort it for me. Does Edu then go, well, I can only sort it if this owner gives me some money? Or do the owners go, well, I've given you enough money, go and sort it out? Like, do you see what I'm getting at?
No, I do understand what you're getting at. From my perspective on the Edu side of things, I think Edu in particular, as the face of Arsenal's transfers, naturally gets an overinflated level of criticism from his perspective, because his team is more than just him. It's Edu, it's Richard Garlick, you've got scouts, you've got assistant sporting directors involved in this. He's the face of that, and he's involved in those negotiations with players. And by the way, under his tutelage, Arsenal have signed priority targets. They have signed players they set out to sign. Last summer, they did get their number one striker target in Gabriel Jesus. The summer before that, we did sign our number one defensive target in Ben White. We did sign our number one goalkeeper target in Ramsdale. The summer before that, we did sign Gabriel. We did sign Partey. Martin Odegaard in 21 was our number one attacking midfield target that summer as well, and they did sign it. So we do sign priority targets. So that it's a myth that we don't do that. But what's not a myth is that we have missed out on some priority targets as well. And the high-profile, big money ones like Mudryk, like Caicedo, potentially like Rice. And that's where the question mark starts to come from. For me, I don't know what Edu can do more than has been done, because from my perspective, he's working within the allocation of funds that are being approved from above. So, and the valuation that the club comes together as a collective for each player. So a big misconception about the market from an Arsenal perspective is there's a budget. The funniest articles that I see before the window is the war chest articles. War chests don't exist, because every single target that a club has, they have a valuation for that player. So
it's always 200 million as well, isn't it? It's always 200 million war chest every year.
Million. As is 300 million, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Isn't it just like X and a pound next to it? I think that's usually what it is. But when it comes to like the budget, players are done in stages. They're done in structures. They're done in add-ons. We haven't spent £65 million on Kai Havertz. We've spent £20 million on Kai Havertz this summer, with another 20 million paid next year and 20 million paid the year after. And there's a valuation on Kai Havertz that we were willing to go to and go above potentially if the valuation was slightly lower than the £65 million. So whatever we spent on Kai Havertz, it doesn't affect the Declan Rice deal. Whatever we spent on Yuri and Timber, it doesn't affect the Declan Rice deal, because every player has an individual valuation that the club is willing to go to on and willing to negotiate on. And that's when I again go back to your question about where the blame lies, because to me, it goes toward the owner, because the people negotiating the deals are working within the realms of what they are being allocated per player, per negotiation, and they're going to try and get the best deal possible, and that's not always possible. But that's why I look more towards the owner side of things and the allocation of funds than I do the negotiation process, because I don't know what people's expectation is around how we were supposed to negotiate better. And I'm still waiting for someone to give me an answer to that question that I don't turn around and say, well, I'm not sure what he was supposed to do differently, or the club was supposed to negotiate differently, when West Ham were always rejecting bids until waiting for another party to get involved, who, by the way, then bid the same overall. I know that the structures were different, but the same overall figure that we ultimately bidded as well. So that's where
that
my
was the one
is.
for me. That was the one where I'm more sided with you there, Tom, because LB, you come in with a bid that when they said Man City were going to bid, I thought you were just going to go 100 million and they would accept it, or 100 and whatever it is. I didn't think it was going to be like this structured deal and these installments that have come in, and it's be very similar. Now I understand it's over 2 years, not 4 or whatever it was, 5 or whatever Arsenal were trying to do it in. But where do you stand right now on this? Declan Rice has given Arsenal his word and he wants Arsenal. He doesn't want to go to Man City, because I'm sorry, bro. Like, if I'm Declan Rice, I'm tempted by Manchester City because I'm guaranteed trophies next season. At Arsenal, we don't know if we're going to win a trophy. We'd like to think that we will.
Yeah, no,
Surely,
I don't think
surely that's
City,
rubbish.
Yeah, I don't think City would have moved for him if they'd not got the okay from Declan Rice. I just don't think that happens. And I think that if, say, Arsenal and City both get an offer in the next couple of days and they both get accepted, and then it's down to Declan Rice what he wants, I mean, he's got to join City. I mean, for me, I just think, even if you're a neutral, I mean, you're playing for Pep Guardiola, arguably the greatest manager of all time. You know what I mean? And if not, he's certainly in the top 2 or 3. Like,
he is the best
I'm not even saying that just as a City fan. I think you've got to go to City if you're Declan Rice. Maybe there was something earlier on in the window when City were not really moving for him, and we were looking at Bellingham, and then maybe at that point he was like, nah, I kind of want to go to Arsenal, because maybe at that point the interest wasn't real. I think now he understands that the interest is real. I just don't see City would have moved for it. I think City would have been like, you want to go Arsenal, mate? All right, no problem. We'll go for someone else. I don't think City moved.
This is why I think he's going to go City. I honestly believe he's going to go City, because why would he not? Like, people say, oh, but he can go and play with Saka and Ramsdale. But yeah, he can go and play with Grealish and Kyle Walker and Foden. Like, it's exactly the same thing. London, like, I really don't think that is as big a pull as some people say. I think it's definitely a pull, and it's definitely convenient for him not to have to move. But if you're moving to go and win trophies, why would you care?
Which is what he said, isn't it, Dan? He said he wants to win trophies.
Wants to win it all.
We don't want to be like Harry Kane coming to the end of his career.
Well, who wants to be like him?
Yeah, I had a great career, but not won anything. And, you know,
did you just compare us to Spurs casually there?
No. Yeah, you kind of did there, actually.
You kind of did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not to the extremes of Spurs, but no, the point that you know what I'm saying, though. You know what I mean? Like, to win the Champions League, to win the Premier League, Arsenal, in my view, not quite there right now. Maybe with a couple big signings, maybe they'll be there. But the fact is that the point that I was trying to make is he said that he wanted to win trophies, and going to Arsenal is no real guarantee of trophies right now. And you never know. You know, Arteta next year he might be going Madrid. He could go Barca, PSG. You know, he's a young manager who could go somewhere else to a different league with a bigger war chest, as Tom was saying. You never know. And I still think whilst Arsenal right now is looking a lot more stable, over the last 10 years, it's been an unstable football club. Yeah, it's now become a little bit more stable. But if Arteta leaves, it could all change again. So we'll have to wait and see, man. But listen, I think it's interesting. I think that West Ham soon will, I think, have to show their cards, because they're not going to want to sit on this. They're not going to want to sit on this for a long time. They can push up the bids, right? But ultimately, the manager, David Moyes, will be like, listen, I need you to just get this deal done now. I need this money to spend. I don't think it's healthy for the football club. I don't think it's healthy for the squad. And for that reason, I think the deal will probably, or I think a bid will probably get accepted sometime later on this week, because I just don't see it dragging on for too long.
Yeah, an interesting one. Just before we move on from this one, LB, like, he walks into our midfield, absolutely walks into our midfield at Arsenal, and there's rumours that we're going to be losing Xhaka and Partey now. So he definitely walks into it for sure. I mean, I think he would have anyway. He can play at a 6 and an 8, in my opinion, and I think at Arsenal he could play at both. At Manchester City, he's not going to play at a 6 because obviously Rodri's there. Does he
No,
fit
but
into the Bernardo Silva position for you, Rice?
It'll play. So the way that I'm not sure how we'll set up next year. So we'll either play 3 at the back with 2 in midfield, with 1 with the license to go. So he could play that role. So like a double pivot, him and Rodri, one of them gets the license to go forward, or we just play the standard formation and he'll just slot into the Gundogan role. So I would imagine he will come into the team. People are like, oh, he's not going to get game time. He'll be on the bench. Nah, don't buy that. He'll start.
Yeah, absolutely. David reckons we're turning into Tottenham 2.0. How does that happen then?
No. So I probably worded that not right. You guys just jumped on it, man. You know what I mean? No, what I meant was, the fact is, when Declan Rice was speaking in that interview, it was very much trophies. Like, he wanted to win trophies. That's what he said. He said he don't want to come to the end of his career not winning trophies. So, you know, do I need to say more? Like, the club that's winning the trophies right now, we just won the treble, is Manchester City. Not saying Arsenal can't win trophies. He's obviously, Arteta's already won the FA Cup.
It's more the chatty. Oh, we're turning to Tottenham too. In the last 10 years, we won 4 FA Cups, and Tottenham, I mean, wow, we've got to go back a while for them to win an FA Cup. The League Cup was back in 2008, was it?
The one thing I'd say, anyway, Tom, coming back to you just quickly, about what we should talk about. I can't remember what you were talking about, man, but
I talk a lot.
No, sorry, it was about the Kai Havertz thing. I think the thing, and obviously you guys are Arsenal fans. I guess 99% of the people in this chat are probably Arsenal fans. I think from a neutral head sort of here, I think the thing that will possibly piss off Arsenal fans if they don't get Declan Rice is, say City getting for 100 million, and you guys bidded close to that. I think people look at that and go, hang on a minute. You know, you signed Kai Havertz for what, 65 million quid total.
Yeah, I agree with this.
Why didn't you just not buy him and go big for Rice? Now, I know your response to that will be, well, they would never have accepted it anyway. But I think that's where some Arsenal fans will find it really difficult to accept if City get him for 100 million, which I know you was talking about the sort of fee, but there has been a lot of rumours over the last 2 years about West Ham wanting the 100 million. I've seen that a lot. I think a lot of Arsenal fans will probably be like, why didn't we just not sign Kai Havertz, who flopped at Chelsea, and just go really big on Declan Rice, who, in my opinion, could transform Arsenal's team? And I think that's where some Arsenal fans will have some difficulty.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I appreciate that you're right. Fans will have that. You know, it's really hard for me to put this across without coming across like a complete twonk. But like, the reason why people have that viewpoint, again, I'm going to try and word this in the most polite way possible, is because they don't understand how it works. Like that.
You're patronising little shit.
I mean, it's impossible for me not to be patronising when I say that. But this is the reality. Like, as I've explained, like, on paper, and like, again, like, if you're playing FIFA, right, you spend 65 million quid on a player, and all of a sudden your budget's gone, you can't spend enough to get the big guy you wanted, and you think, oh, if I hadn't have bought that player, I could have got that. In reality, it simply doesn't work like that. And as I said, the Havertz deal being split into the 2020 with the 5 million add-ons, you know, because the valuation of that player was set at a certain amount of money. The Rice deal is going to be split across, again, a certain amount of add-ons and structured in a certain way, be it 2 years, be it 3 years, whatever comes to the final agreement. Arsenal have money available to buy Rice at a certain fee that they want to go to. In the same way that in January, they had a certain amount of money that they were willing to go to on Mykhailo Mudryk and Caicedo, well above both those players' valuations, by the way, and what they were worth. But when it came to the end of it, on Caicedo, that Brighton didn't want to sell for any price, and so they pulled out and told them so. And with Mudryk, Chelsea went to a figure and a structure with the Mudryk deal that Arsenal turned around, and both Arteta and Edu agreed that it's just not worth going to this level of money. And if they don't sign Rice, I'm just telling people that my understanding of the situation is if they don't sign Rice, it will be because whatever money that he goes for, or whatever money that West Ham ultimately were not going to sell him until reaching the figure, was a figure that they felt they were just not willing to spend, no matter what they spent on other players. But I agree with you that people are going to look at it and say, if you didn't sign this guy, you could have spent the extra money. But the club were never going to do that because they have a figure in mind that they just aren't willing to go to.
If he goes for 100 million, right? Which I think he will go for. I think he'll go for 100. I think West Ham, they want the 100 million. They want look at what we've done, guys. We've got 100 million pound for the player. Do you not think that Arsenal, the board, have been a little bit naive? Because, like I said, you can go back over the last 2 years, and it's quite clear to me that they're in that sort of ballpark. Like, I don't think it's any shock that it'll go for 100 million. So do you not think of the Arsenal board there, like, you thought you could get him for 70? Because, like I say, everything that I've seen over the last couple of years is they want 100 million, especially after the Grealish transfer. So I just think they come across as a little bit naive, thinking that they could get a player for that price.
What I said about how it works, that's not how I personally think it should, by the way. That's just my understanding of what they're doing. So you're right in saying I think that I think the club should absolutely be going to the 100 million and going and get Rice, because as Dan pointed out and you point out, he transforms Arsenal's midfield.
Mm-hmm.
And if Arsenal don't sign Declan Rice, and it is a disaster, and as I've said to you guys, and you know, me and Dan have had plenty of chats off air on WhatsApp, and I've said, and he'll attest to, it's an absolute disaster if Arsenal don't sign him. And I'll be critical of the club for not pulling it off, especially if it is for that 100 million, because I personally think they should go to that. All of what I've said is just basically an explanation as to why they potentially won't do that. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. There's naivety if Arsenal, for me, don't go to that level. And I think, again, I point towards the ownership for not allocating the funds to say to Edu, you know, if Josh Kroenke, who is basically the voice of the owners, stands whatever, you know, if Josh has been told that Arteta wants this guy and that Declan Rice is the guy that transforms Arteta's team, for me, as the representative of the owners, he should be doing everything possible to facilitate that deal. And if Arsenal don't get that deal done, they've dropped the ball. And they have not done their job properly, in my opinion, because they should get that. They have to get this deal done for me.
Yeah, literally, I couldn't agree with that more. You know, my thoughts are this regime. I still don't trust it, man. I can't lie. I need to see these sort of things happening for me to start turning the corner on what we are as a club. Before you go, Tom, because I know you need to shoot, mate. James Maddison, very quickly. You and I have spoken about this guy, and we both wanted him. I remember the Hippodrome, we both said that he'd be a great signing for Arsenal back then, which was only last season, I think. Looks like he's going to Spurs, which I'm shocked by the way. I can't lie. I thought he'd go Newcastle over Tottenham. Is there an argument to be had that this is a better signing than Kai Havertz? Because I saw this put out earlier in a tweet saying that this is a guy in 3 years has done much more in a Leicester shirt than Kai Havertz has done in a Chelsea shirt in this league. And some people were going, no way, Kai Havertz is better. Now, I've got to be real. James Maddison was on my list, not Kai Havertz. And James Maddison was on my list because I think what he's doing in that Leicester side is pretty impressive. Now, I understand the injury knocks. If you look at James Maddison's game time, he's actually got 30 games in the last 3 years that he's played. So he hasn't played 10, 15 games like people will let you have, you know. He's going to be cheaper than Kai Havertz. He's going to play in the same positions and actually be what I think is an attacking 8 or a number 10, as opposed to Kai Havertz, which we're not quite sure what he is still. There's a lot of pros for James Maddison. I think this would be a good signing for Tottenham, mate.
Yeah, I think it will be. And I agree with you when we talked about Maddison that I think it would be an interesting signing. You know, I'd happily have seen him in an Arsenal shirt to see what would have happened. What I would say is that, you know, I think the figures we're talking about here, I think upwards of like 50 million Leicester something want for Maddison. They've got relegated, Leicester. Maddison's contract is running down. And obviously, if they're going to get value for him, it's going to be in this window. But do you think there's something to be said about the fact between Kai Havertz and Maddison, for instance, that Real Madrid were tracking the Havertz situation and were interested in signing him? Bayern Munich were tracking the Havertz situation and were interested in signing him as well for a certain figure. And Arsenal have obviously got that deal done. Newcastle were the only other club, really, and correct me if I'm wrong, that were looking at him and have since kind of called their interest on him. I just don't think clubs are convinced he's worth what Leicester are ultimately asking for.
I think he's well worth it, Tom.
I'm not saying he's not a good player. I think he's a good player. I just think there's enough evidence for me to lean on Arsenal's talent identification that's taken them from 11th when Arteta took over to a title challenge in the space of 3 years with the squad that they've built, that tells me that I can't sit at the beginning of a season having not seen what these players have done and make a conclusion on them in terms of what they're going to do. I would have been intrigued to see what Maddison would have done at Arsenal. And I'm very intrigued to see what Kai Havertz does under Arteta. But I don't think anyone can sit and say A is better than B without having seen what happens this year. I think it would be incredibly brave for anyone to say that Havertz is a terrible signing for Arsenal. Really brave to say that at this point in the season, because evidence tells you that Arteta can turn around Granit Xhaka's career. Arteta can take a forgotten Martin Odegaard and turn him into a record-equaling midfielder, goal scorer at Arsenal.
I think that you're fair to say that, Tom. To say, because I agree. I think there's a couple of managers out there in the world that could get something out of Havertz. Pep probably one, and I think Arteta's probably one. So I think you're right in saying it takes a brave man to say it's a terrible signing, but I don't think you have to be brave to say that it's a huge risk and a huge gamble. And if it doesn't come off, Arteta and Edu are going to get it in big time because people, and obviously if you miss out on Rice, again, it'll just compound everything because people will be going, why on earth did you spend £65 million total package on this guy who's absolutely flopped at Chelsea? You should have gone spent it the other way around. That's why it's a little bit of a gamble. This deal for Kai Havertz has to work. It has. I think he's under massive pressure, Arteta, to get this player playing, because if it doesn't perform,
he is.
People are going to be like, "What on earth did you do that?"
But LB, what to you is the more attractive signing, realistically? Because I look at James Maddison. Yeah, I'm with you.
50 million quid, James Maddison, for me.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean to say that he'll have a better season than Kai Havertz, because as I just agreed with Tom, that Arteta could get something out of Havertz. But just off the face of it, which looks like the better deal, what the guy who's flopped over the last 3 years, Kai Havertz or Maddison, who's had a few injury problems, but if you look at his numbers, you look at his G&A, which I know his game's not all about G&A, has actually done really, really well. And this year he's played out on the right hand side, which I don't think is his best position. So I think you have to look at it. If they get it done for 50 million, I agree. I don't know which one of you said
for the record, Dan, you've obviously seen you listen to the show I do every morning. Whenever I've talked about Havertz, I've said that it's a huge risk, and I said that if it fails, it's all on Arteta, and I agree with you, LB, you're spot on. It's a massive risk. I just think from the Havertz perspective from Arsenal, I just think that there's something there that clearly they've seen. I think the off the ball stuff is really good with Havertz, and Arteta's desperate for players that work really hard, which Havertz does. And I feel as though that the potential that was there at Bayer Leverkusen that we saw, I think if we were talking about, Arsenal doing this deal in 2020 when Chelsea signed him, everyone would be overjoyed with that. And it's obviously these 3 years have brought a lot of questions. I also think there's been a lot of instability for a young player coming into the Premier League for the first time at Chelsea. I think that environment has been horrific for him. And I just think that James Maddison's obviously had a lot more stability at Leicester to develop and grow and shine, and also be the star man.
Has he done? Can I pull you up on that?
So yeah, I do.
Stability at Leicester. I mean, you look at Leicester over the last 2 or 3 years; they've hardly spent any money. They've sold a lot of the players. This season was an absolute disaster. I don't know.
Was it for Chelsea?
Well, yeah. To be fair, but I don't know if you could say Leicester have been a stable.
I think contextually, there's been more stability at Leicester than there has at Chelsea compared to Chelsea. I think Chelsea have gone through this major upheaval with the takeover of the ownership. Leicester have had Brendan Rodgers, I think, for a consistent period of time, whilst Maddison's been there over the last fair few years. And I think that has ultimately led to Maddison growing during this period, whereas Chelsea has just been an absolute cluster mess of chaos, and to be fair, they in that period of chaos, they got to a Champions League final, won it, with Havertz being the guy, ironically, that scores the winning goal in that final against who? I'm not going to make jokes. We've not won one. You have, fair play to you. But I think that there is something to be said about players that shine, in those sides. It then takes a player again to step up. It's why I've always kind of been never that keen on Arsenal signing Wilfried Zaha. I feel like, he's been able to shine at Crystal Palace being that standout guy. I think James Maddison has been able to shine in this Leicester team. And it will be interesting to see if and when he moves to that next level, which, by the way, Spurs. I don't know if that's the right place for him to go to as a club. He may not
He
then
might as
get
well
the
retire.
right.
He might as well retire now if he's going to go there.
Honestly,
Like,
yeah.
what
So
is the point?
just quickly, Tom, if you had the choice now, Maddison 50 million or Havertz 65, which one would you can pick either. Which one would you go for?
The reason why I pick Havertz is because Arteta has picked him,
No.
and I have got so much encouragement from the business that we have done to trust that decision. And if Arteta thinks that Maddison for 50 million is a better deal than Havertz for 65, we would have signed Maddison.
And I respect it, man, because there's not a lot of people that would say that, so I respect it. And I just point out again, even though I did sort of bait you out there, sorry, Tom. But,
I'd take it all day.
I just say again, I don't think that this is a ridiculous transfer. The problem for me is the timing. This is the summer that Arsenal, for me, needed to go bang, 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 get players in, quality players who are proven. And they've got Timber in, who I think is a good, it looks like it's happening, it looks like a good signing. Havertz is a massive gamble and it has to work. Rice, we don't really know what's going on. And like I say, I just fear that you come to the end of the transfer window and you potentially might go, not the best. Like I say, it's still a long time
That's
to go.
my fear. That's of course everyone's fear.
Would anyone like to do a little friendly bet on who gets more goal contributions next season, Havertz or Maddison?
I'll go Maddison.
Yeah,
Would anyone like to do a little bet with me on that? I'm willing to take it up. If you're that confident that Maddison is the better signing, take me up on this bet that Havertz, for me, will get more goal contributions, goals and assists in the Premier League. Let's say, because obviously Spurs don't have European competition, so I'll make it fair. Premier League. If you're that confident,
because Tottenham scoring goals is not the issue; it's the defending. Like Maddison and Kane, Maddison and Son, Kane, Kulusevski, that could be quite frightening going forward. It's just their defense is shocking. Now I'm not saying that Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus aren't going to contribute along with Kai Havertz, but I just think I need to see more from Kai Havertz. One thing I will say, I'm not going to judge Kai Havertz until he puts on the shirt, because that's one that would not be fair. That would not be fair of me. And that's what I did not do with Tomiyasu and Ramsdale, and I didn't really know what they were about. And they've turned out to be fantastic signings. Tomiyasu needs to keep fit, but he's a good player. For me, I just really like everything about James Maddison, and to the point where everyone says, "Oh my God, like Dan Potts absolutely loves Maddison. It's embarrassing." Yeah, I think he's quality. I've always said he is, and I look at his goal contributions in the last couple of years, and it's been really impressive, I think. So, and I actually like a lot that he brings. The only thing I can question, Tom, with Maddison, Arteta might not have liked his mentality towards the end of the season, because he did give up with Leicester. He did. Him and Tielemans, it looked to me, and I spoke to Leicester fans, and the pair of them said the pair of them need to go now. It's embarrassing the way they ended the season. Their heads have gone down. It's just not really what you want to be seeing from a professional footballer. Maybe Arteta looks at things like that. The off-the-pitch stuff to him is massively important. I'm just trying to think of excuses to why we didn't go for this guy, because for me, Newcastle have got Tonali, and I think they're looking at the Zoboszlai that someone is saying ahead of James Maddison. So I imagine that's why they've not gone in for him. Tottenham, like you say, the only club. So maybe people are looking at that thinking, for value for money, we can get somebody better. But I think he's top quality, man. I really do. I like him a lot. I'm a big fan. And I hope the Kai Havertz one works and it don't make us look silly. But this is a huge risk to pay £65 million for a player who's not settled down in this league yet, who I still don't think has a position.
The other thing I'd say on the risk thing there, Dan, as well, is this isn't a risk for Spurs.
No,
they know if they get for 50 million quid. I very, very much doubt that we'll get to the end of next season and go, oh, James Maddison flopped this year. I don't see that being the case. Maybe you'll get to the end of the season and you'll go, oh, he didn't do mint, but he'll go in there and he will score goals and he will get assists. And,
a lot of people said that about Richarlison, to be fair.
Did they?
I didn't. I said he was a flop of the season. Do you remember?
People should have said that.
I remember watching Robbie on AFTV say that he wanted Richarlison over Jesus. So
don't.
I don't know why people said that, but yeah, I think that James Maddison is a low risk option. I think it's a low risk option.
I think it's a good signing, man. I do. Let's talk about the person that's going to be playing in front of James Maddison, or is he? Harry Kane. Bayern Munich are interested. I don't know what you boys think about this one. Let's start with you, LB. Harry Kane's got to get out of there, isn't he? Like, let's be real. He's got to try and get out of here now, even if it means forgetting his Premier League record from Shearer, accepting he's one of the greats of the Premier League, and just go and win trophies at Bayern Munich. Because for me, the James Maddison signing, he might look at that and go, that's a good start, but he's going to want to go and win trophies. That place is not where you win trophies. So he's got to go, man.
Well, this is the thing for him now. He's in this really awkward position of what does he do? Does he stay at Spurs? I guess even if he leaves, and to be fair, I know this because you hear him on social media and on TalkSport or whatever, the fact that when some Tottenham fans are actively telling him to leave, you know what I mean? Because they want him to win a trophy. They probably like him to go abroad, to Madrid, to Bayern Munich. It's as a neutral sort of fan, you would have to say it's a shame, man, because he's arguably one of the greatest England strikers of all time. I mean, he's an absolute animal in front of goal, works hard, he drops in the pocket and does really, really well. You know, he can score left foot, right foot header. He's a fantastic player. And, you know, you do have to say it's a shame that, unfortunately, the club have let him down with their decision-making, both with the managerial appointments and the transfer business as well. And I think that based on that, he should now leave, because he should go, you know what, I've given you everything and you've not given me everything to be able to make this club a success. You can tell that by some of the managerial appointments. You can tell that by the players that they've signed in the transfer market. They've not helped Harry Kane win any trophies. He's been doing it all on his own. So for me, I think that obviously it'll be a difficult decision. There doesn't really appear at this moment in time to be anyone in England that wants to go for him. Why? I don't know. I don't know why Man United are not all over this deal. I would be if I was them. So the question is, does he go to Bayern Munich? You'll win the Bundesliga, no problems. You'll probably win the German Cup. They've struggled in the Champions League of late, but I do think if you get him in there, that might help. But he'll at least have a Bundesliga. The question that you have to ask, Dan, is does he give a fuck about the Bundesliga? Do you know what I mean? Because when I was growing up watching football, I didn't care about the Bundesliga. You know what I mean? We was in the park at the school playgrounds. No one's talking about fucking Schalke and Bayern Munich. You know, we was all talking about the Premier League. So, you know, come the end of his career, will he be turning around and going, yeah, I didn't win anything other than the Bundesliga? Well,
so would you stay at Tottenham then, LB, instead of going Bayern?
I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. Because like I say, to me, as someone who's grown up in this country and watched Premier League football all throughout my childhood, I think I might potentially want, if it's Real Madrid, I go Real Madrid 100%. If it's Bayern Munich, because the reason I say that is because I think Real Madrid have a chance of actually winning the Champions League. If I go Bayern Munich, I don't know, man. I don't think you're guaranteed to win the Champions League, and I just think, So I don't know, man. I think he fucked it. He should have come to City. Obviously, maybe not necessarily his fault. You know, leave it. May have held him back, but that was his golden ticket, wasn't it, boys? That was his golden ticket 2 years
ago. It was, but I'll tell you this, I don't know if you agree with this, Tom. I still don't think he's going to leave. I still think he's going to stay at Tottenham.
I don't think they'll let him.
No, I don't.
He's chained up there. You know, he's not going anywhere. I take LB's point on Bayern. I just think that there are only real two clubs out there that can offer you as close to a guarantee of the Champions League, and that's City and Real Madrid. You know. He's not going City. No. And I have a sense that the only destination for Kylian Mbappe is Real Madrid. So I don't think he's going to go to Real Madrid either. Bayern, who won it, what was it, 3 years ago that they won the Champions League?
Yeah, beat PSG.
I'll be frantically Googling. I think it's been the last 3 or 4 years that they've won it.
Yeah, so, 3 years ago.
I feel like Bayern are the next, beyond City and Real Madrid, are the next best option. Would that be fair?
Probably, possibly, but they're still so far behind. I mean, I know they won it in 2020, quarterfinals. They've been knocked out of the quarterfinals 3 years in a row, and we fucking humbled them, mate. Like, they're so far behind. Like, maybe with him in the team, maybe they're better, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what would you do, Tom? Would you go there and win a Bundesliga? Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing I'm saying is he won't win the Champions League, but the point I'm missing is he's not going to fucking win it at Tottenham, is he? So maybe
no.
That's my point.
Real Madrid and City are off the table for Kane now. Then you're not going to those clubs again. You know, as you said, the golden ticket was City, however many years ago that was. It's not happening. And I just think that the best thing that he could do is join Bayern Munich, because I think you're going to win the Bundesliga. I know Dortmund pushed them real close, but they've lost their best player in Bellingham. You know, Bayern, add Kane, you know, a striker. Let's be honest, Bayern have won the league this season with Choupo-Moting playing plenty of games, you know, up top. So you add Kane to Bayern Munich, and we say they got knocked out of the Champions League. You know, they had Lewandowski until what? How long's Lewandowski? Is it a year he's been at Barca now? I think it's a year. And they've had Choupo-Moting playing as their striker for the last year or so. I know he's been in it. I don't know who else. I think they've got that young, there's another young striker there as well. Musiala's been playing obviously very high up too and scoring plenty of goals. But I think you add Kane to Bayern. I think that's what we think about. We go, are Bayern going to win the Champions League? Well, actually, maybe we should think about, are Bayern with Kane capable of winning the Champions League? And I'd argue that maybe, I mean, beyond Haaland, you know, and Mbappe, the next prolific goal scorer you think of, and I say this very reluctantly, you know, as an Arsenal fan, it is Kane. You know, in a terrible Spurs side, he's still scoring a ridiculous number of goals. So I think that, yeah, Kane at Bayern wins you the Bundesliga, probably wins you the DFB Pokal as well. And, you know, if they've been knocked out of the quarterfinals with Choupo-Moting as their striker, and yes, I know Lewandowski was there before, but they also won the Champions League with him there. I do think that, that it's the right move for him, because next summer you leave on a free, you either go Bayern or Man United.
But do you not want that Premier League record though, Tom? That's the thing that's there for him, man.
I mean, to be honest, like Alan Shearer, right, is one I do appreciate him as a pundit, but he won the Premier League with Blackburn, and I just don't necessarily think that Kane will be compared as a better player than Shearer if he breaks the record, because he's not going to win a Premier League.
Yeah, but it's having the name there, Tom. Like, if Haaland stays at City, then it don't matter anyway, because Haaland will end up getting the record. But say Haaland leaves, in 50 years' time, he's probably still going to be top of that list.
So let me ask you both this. You end your career and you've won Golden Boots and you got into Team of the Season in most of your lifetime, and you've got the highest ever league record goal scoring. Or I give you a career that wins you a title in any league and a domestic cup and probably the top scorer in Germany, let's say. What one are you taking? I'm going to take the trophies, man. I ain't taking the individual accolades. No way. I don't care. You will not be remembered as, that Team of the Season. He was in it 3 years in a row. I couldn't give a damn. What did you win? Absolute F all. Like, this guy is
going to go. He does have to go.
He's got to go, man. He's got to go. I don't think he will, because I don't think Levy's going to allow him to. Like, okay, let me say, he will go, but it will be on his, I have to go now because I haven't got a contract here. I've had to walk out on a free. That's what I think will happen, unless he decides he wants to stay at Tottenham, which is just even more of a waste of space.
Well, yeah, the problem that Spurs have now for me is they get James Maddison in, right? Strengthen their defense, get one or two, get a couple of defenders in, right? They have a chance, in my opinion, of potentially getting the top four next year. I don't think that's completely stupid to say. With Harry Kane, Son, Kulusevski, Maddison, a couple of defenders, so long as this manager is not like a complete fraud, which people are saying is not, then they've got a chance of getting the top four. If they sell him, no top four for Tottenham next year. That's, for me, that's just simple. So the question is, we could sell it.
I don't think they get top four, LB, whatever.
But you can't rule them out, Dan.
Look, Dan, we're going to go back to that debate we had about what got them top four, you know, the manager or Son and Kane. Do you remember those debates back in the day? And for me, it's always been Son and Kane. Son and Kane have been the ones that have dragged them to success, not success, but, you know, just qualification for the Champions League. Yeah. And I just think, I didn't think that Antonio, the year that they beat Arsenal, they just edged us into the Champions League. For me, Kane and Son's presence was a bigger factor than Antonio Conte's presence in them getting into top four that year. And I think if they lose Kane, you know, I love that LB's nodding, by the way. It's going to be killing Dan inside.
I still disagree. I still disagree with it. But
I know you do, but it's just,
otherwise they would have got it this year. They had Kane and Son this year, and they didn't get top four.
Yeah, but they imploded from the manager. The point I'm trying to make, Dan, is if they have Kane, they've got a chance. right? Regardless whether you think that's a small chance or a big chance. In my view, if you got
Well,
Kane,
that's fair.
but
They need
if he
Kane.
leaves, no chance. So how much is that worth then? You tell me then, okay, well, how much are you going to sell Kane for? Because if we sell him, we've got no chance of getting in the top 4, in my opinion. We keep him.
They want 100 million, and I actually think that's
Who are they
fair
gonna
because he's
buy?
guaranteed 30 goals a season, isn't he?
It's like the worst
and they're not
striker
going to
market.
replace him. Yeah,
You
they're
know.
not going to replace him. They're going to have to go and get like Calvert-Lewin and like, I don't know, Ollie Watkins or something like that. I don't know. Like,
how much did they say that you get for
Watkins,
getting in the Champions League for qualifying? Is it like 80 million or something?
I don't know, Tom. Do you know?
I think it's like 8.
Not off the top of my head.
I
I think
like
I think they factor in how much you get from the group stage. You know.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's
probably,
like 80 million, something like that. So for me, I've got to be saying, well, if we keep him, I think we've got a chance of getting in the top 4 and therefore getting that 80 million. If we sell him, we're not going to get that 80 million. So 80 million.
Yeah, for Spurs, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
Difficult. It's a difficult position to be in. However, what I would say is that Spurs have probably, made this shit themselves because they refused to deal with City 2 years ago. City probably would have gone up to 120. They could have invested that money into the squad. Now they're in this disastrous position, and this is, unfortunate for Spurs fans, but this is all due to you leaving. He's just a he's just a virus inside that club, man.
Is there an argument? I see what you're saying. Is there an argument though that if Kane left, that was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
If Kane left in 2021, as we talked about, the striker market, it's not been great for a while. The only big strikers have gone are your Haalands of this world. I just feel as though they could have fallen away into mediocrity even sooner, arguably, if they'd have lost Kane at that point. I don't think Son would sign his new deal. I think he probably would have looked.
For me, Tom, is they've kicked the can down the road, and they've been in a situation where they've not really invested in the team. If they would have kept him and said, right, you know what, we're going to invest properly into this team, then yeah, but they didn't. They said no to City because they didn't want to deal with City or whatever, and then they just didn't really do anything. He's not signed a new contract, and they've just kicked the can down the road where they're now in this situation where 2 years later, which has gone like that, by the way, we're now going, shit, you've either got to sell him now, keep him, but then you'll lose him on a free transfer. I just think that it would have been better for Tottenham to have, if they didn't want to invest in the squad, to have had a realistic plan to say, you know what, we're not going to invest in this squad because we don't want to. Therefore, we feel it's better to plan for his departure, get a big cash in, maybe get a bidding war going or whatever, and then put all that money back into the team to give us a best chance as possible to get back into the top 4. I just feel that Levy, when City came in, strong arm City and was like, "Oh, look at me, I'm not selling to you." And at the time, maybe got a little bit of credit from some Spurs fans and look how he bullied the big City with all their money. Even they couldn't get him out. But now he just looks like a bit of an idiot, in my opinion, because now look at them. They're in no good state. They've had a disastrous 2 years under Conte. And what are they doing now?
He is bad news, man. Levy. He's turned them into a tourist attraction, and it's all about the Formula One stadium underneath now, and all the bloody concerts and the AJ fights. It's embarrassing. They are an embarrassing club. They just need to fold. That's what I think.
No, they don't. They're great comedy. Keep them around.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is true. Just lastly, before we wrap up, LB Kovacic signing today. Good signing, man. Good signing, I think.
Yeah, I can't believe that there weren't interested clubs elsewhere. 25 million quid, 29-year-old, nearly 100 caps for Croatia, over 200 games for Chelsea, 100 games for Real Madrid, 100 games for Inter Milan. This is a guy with experience who's won a lot. And I just think that he's coming in for 25 million quid. I thought, this absolute steal, in my opinion, and builds up our squad because, of course, we've got to deal with that World Cup thing in December, which I think we only actually played 2 or 3 games. But you got to fly out to Saudi Arabia. You're still going to be playing Champions League. It takes a toll. We've seen that with the World Cup this year, the actual World Cup. Now, of course, this isn't to the same degree. I'm not saying it is, but the facts are we're going to be playing even more games. And to get a player like that in, who I don't think, I mean, you guys can disagree. I don't think it'll take Kovacic too long to integrate into this Pep Guardiola side. No. I think he knows how to play football. And for 25 million.
If you're signing Rice, mate, he won't play.
No. Honestly, you know what's funny is when we were first linked with Kovacic, I was like, yeah, he's probably going to cost like 40 million. 25 million. I know he's only got a year left on his deal, but I just think that's a steal. I really do.
Yeah, I must admit. I agree.
I said when that deal went through, I said, I wonder what would have happened if that was Arsenal signing 29-year-old Kovacic for even 25 million. And I think with the way our fan base is, I genuinely think they would have moaned about it. Like, I really do. I really think it would have been a criticised signing for our centre midfield. But I think it's a really shrewd bit of business.
We might need him if we're getting rid of Xhaka and Partey, Rice, and one more. We're actually, even with Rice, we're bloody weaker. Like this, I honestly believe that. If we get, let's say, Rice and Lavia, let's say, and Xhaka and Partey are leaving, are we actually any stronger, Tom? I don't know that we are.
If it's Xhaka and Partey out and Rice and Lavia and Havertz in, I think we need one more. Certainly, I think they have to keep hold of Partey. I don't know what amount of money, like makes it worth not having that quality in the squad.
Me neither,
I think it's
man.
weird, mate. I think it's weird, with the Arsenal situation. I mean, you look at your cup games last year. Most of them games, especially the Europa League games, you played the B team. You know what I mean? I think Odegaard played like two Europa League games, right? This year is going to be different. You're in the Champions League. You're going to have to be playing the strong squad every single game. And I said on the last stream that we did, Dan, there's going to be pressure on Arteta to win a trophy, whether it even be the Carabao Cup, FA Cup. People want to see silverware. And Arsenal fans want to see silverware. He's going to have to play a strong squad. That FA Cup game that you played against City this year, if that happens again this year, I don't think he's got the ability. Not ability, that's the wrong word, but I don't think he's got the option to play a B team. He's got to go strong. Arsenal fans want to see trophies. They want to see silverware. So I think building up a squad and having a big squad is absolutely crucial. And I agree with the names that you've just said there, Tom. I think you probably are still one short.
And the thing is, like, you get rid of two midfielders at Arsenal with two coming in. I'd thought the two going would have been Jorginho and El Neni, and we're keeping those two and getting rid of the other two. It's like, wow. I mean, they were pivotal last season for us as well, moving forward. I thought, like, Xhaka, he's not even my biggest fan, but I'm not his biggest fan, but he was quality. Partey's been exceptional. And to lose both of those, Xhaka never injured, Thomas Partey, pivotal when he was playing. We had to, every time he played, we pretty much won. He dropped off with 4 or 5 games left, fair enough. But he had like 32 games where he was outstanding for us. So I think this is going to be a real risk for me, man, next season. This midfield is completely revamped and rechanged. So anyway, let's see. Listen, we're going to leave it there. Absolute legends in the chat. Thank you all so much. Close to 500 if you're still with us. Make sure you do me a favor and like and subscribe and get me up to 10K, please, peeps. Let's get us up to 10K as quickly as possible. That'd be amazing. Make sure you do the same thing to Tom. Tom, how can people follow you, my friend?
You can find me on the Gooner Talk every single morning at 8 a.m, giving all the latest updates in the last 24 hours. So tune in to the show with our mutual friend Harry Simi as well on the channel just now. So make sure that you give that a listen, talking about mainly Rice. So if you want more Rice chat, it's all there. But appreciate you, and LB, nice to meet you as well, mate.
Yeah, likewise, mate. Likewise.
LB, man, let them know where they can find you, bro.
Yes, we're at City Extra. Just like doing the daily shit. Rice. That's all it is, man. And then I got my personal channel, It's LB, which I'm trying to run up to 3K at the moment. So yeah, I do daily transfer roundups every morning, man. So yeah, try and help us out to 3K on that, people. I appreciate it.
Nice one. All you've got to do is click on City Extra. It's in the title, so make sure you head over to that and head over to LB's channel as well. Big up, everybody. We're back tomorrow for more news as it comes. Until then, see you next time, and up the Arsenal. Take care, people.